evening, I'm Heyling Chan in Hong Kong and welcome to ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show. At least 4 people are killed in an attack on the Chinese consulate in the Pakistani port city of Karachi. Hong Kong department store Lane Crawford joins other Chinese retailers in dumping Dolce & Gabbana following a backlash to its controversial ad. U.S. government reportedly asks allies to avoid using equipment manufactured by Chinese tech giant Huawei. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has strongly condemned an attack on its consulate in the southern Pakistani city of Karachi. At least 2 policemen were killed and a security guard wounded today in the attack insurgent group Balochistan Liberation Army has claimed responsibility for. It says 3 of its suicide bombers carried out the attack and blamed China for exploiting Pakistan's resources. Prime Minister Imran Khan has ordered an inquiry into the attack, calling it a conspiracy against strategic cooperation with China. Beijing is Pakistan's closest ally, and it's plowed billions of dollars into the country's infrastructure projects. Separately, in an unrelated attack, a blast at a crowded market in Pakistan's northwest killed at least 25 people today. Back locally now, government officials and prominent figures poured into the Hong Kong funeral home today to pay tribute to the godfather of local politics, Sir Chong Si-yun. Chief Executive Carrie Lam and her predecessors C.Y. Leung and Tung Chee-hwa were among those who paid their last respects to the veteran politician. Chong played a prominent role in fighting for Hong Kongers' rights during handover talks between the UK and Beijing. He also served in both the legislative and executive councils under the British colonial government. Chong passed away last week, aged 101.
S.Y. Chung has been selfless in serving Hong Kong. He was fair, analytical, and calm. He was also very objective and foresighted. We should all learn from him.
It's been a month since its grand opening, but traffic on the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge has only hit 1/3 of original estimates. Government data puts the daily average vehicle flow on the sea crossing at only 3,095, far short of the official estimate of at least 9,000. Shuttle buses and cross-border coaches make up 65% of the flow, but cargo vehicles, which were expected to go on the bridge a lot, was less than 1%. Transport authorities say they expect traffic to grow over time and will introduce measures to maximize the bridge's usage. Meanwhile, tourists who are traveling from Zhuhai to Hong Kong on the mega bridge will soon be required to buy shuttle bus tickets online ahead of their journeys. That's a new measure announced by the bridge shuttle operator in a bid to divert weekend travel crowds. From tomorrow, travelers can only buy tickets on the WeChat account of the bus company or a Zhuhai ticketing service. Hong Kong ID holders can still buy their tickets at counters in the city's port. Commerce and Economic Development Chief Edward Yao said he's confident the new rule will help disperse crowds of tourists, especially on the weekends. There seems to be no end in sight to Dolce & Gabbana's woes following a massive backlash to one of its ad campaigns. Despite the brand having now apologized, Hong Kong department store Lane Crawford is joining a host of other retailers in dumping the fashion label's products from its stores. Evelina Leung reports.
The Dolce & Gabbana scandal has now spilled over into Hong Kong. Lane Crawford announced today that it will remove the brand from all its Hong Kong and mainland stores and its website. In a written statement, Andrew Keith, the company's president, said, quote, "We believe that brands need to be aware of the cultural implications of their actions and understand the potential backlash when customers feel their values have been disrespected." Keith added that customers have been returning the brand's products to its stores. On the mainland, D&G also disappeared from the websites of Yoox Net-a-Porter, although the online retailer has declined to comment. It comes a day after Reuters found that pages that were previously linked to D&G items on the e-commerce sites hosted by Alibaba and JD.com were no longer available, and searches for the brand returned no products. The retailers also declined to comment. The spokesman of the Chinese Foreign Ministry said yesterday that authorities do not want this to become a diplomatic issue. Gang Shuang also told reporters yesterday that they should ask the Chinese people for their opinions instead of the government. The scandal broke after the fashion house released a video showing a Chinese woman in a red dress trying to use chopsticks to eat pizza and spaghetti. That attracted a string of complaints, with many accusing the video of being racist. An Instagram user later posted a screenshot of an online conversation with the Instagram account of designer Stefano Gabbana, in which the designer insulted China. The company has since issued a video apology on Weibo. But that wasn't enough to save D&G's fashion show in Shanghai that had been scheduled for earlier this week after Chinese celebrities and models deserted the brand. The gaffe is not the first by Dolce & Gabbana in China. The brand came under fire on social media last year for another series of ads showing the grungy side of Chinese life. Evelyn Lang, ViuTV News.
For more on this, I spoke earlier to Grace Lam, a fashion director and stylist who's also had years of experience in international publishing. I asked her about her take on the controversial advert.
It was very inconsiderate because I personally feel that the video was making fun of Chinese people and our culture, which is not appropriate, especially when you're hosting a fashion event in China. And nowadays, Chinese people travel around the world. We're very global travelers. So, we're very open-minded about everything now. So I think it was very inappropriate.
So the advert, along with Instagram messages apparently sent by Stefano Gabbana, what kind of impact is it having on the brand right now?
I think it's not. Perhaps some people think that the video wasn't too bad, but it's what he said afterwards via social media. The conversation between him and Diet Prada was pretty bad. What he said about Chinese and all the descriptions, and I think it's damaged the brand a lot because now all the big department stores or online shops are put out.
Sorry, can you just go back and explain Diet Prada?
Yes. So Diet Prada is a social media platform which has a huge following in the fashion scene. So a lot of people follow them.
Okay. So Dolce & Gabbana bosses have now apologized. Do you think that's good enough?
I think it's always good to apologize when you feel you've done something inappropriate. But I don't understand why it's taking like 4 or 5 days to do this, because this happened on a Monday and we're Friday already. So I think it's a little bit late, but it's good to get an apology.
And do you think it comes across as insincere because it's late?
I think it's a little bit late, but it's better late than nothing.
Can Dolce & Gabbana recover from this?
At this stage, I think it might be difficult, but in the long term, we don't know. But I think they've got a long way to go to trying to save this incident, yeah.
And China is a massive market, so this actually is a really big hit to them.
It's a huge hit because everyone is retrieving their brand, dropping them, and I actually feel sorry for people that is working for them because now their future is uncertain.
I see. So it's not the first time Dolce & Gabbana has had a public relations controversy. I know 6 years ago it banned Hong Kongers from taking photos of its storefront, but not tourists. Has the brand not learned its lesson since then?
I guess not, because it keeps happening. And I think for any brand that wants to enter China or any country, they need to do more research. They need to understand the people, the local people, what they want and what they don't want, rather than just because you're famous, you can't say anything you want.
Coming up next, the latest from the world of business. Let's start with a quick look at the markets here in Hong Kong. The Hang Seng Index finished 0.4% down today at 25,927. The newly listed Meituan Dianping plunged almost 12% after results showed its operating losses have more than tripled. Over on the mainland, the Shanghai Composite Index fell nearly 2.5% to close the day at 2,579. This is the market's biggest tumble in 5 weeks. The United States is said to be urging allies around the world to avoid equipment from Chinese tech giant Huawei. That's according to a report by the Wall Street Journal, in a move that would further pile pressure on the company, already under scrutiny from Western nations. Our mainland correspondent Samantha Vardas has the details from the capital.
Well, US officials have reportedly reached out to foreign allies where Huawei equipment is already in wide use about what they see as cybersecurity risks. The US has already largely barred the tech giant from supplying its government and contractors. Australia has also banned the company from supplying equipment for a 5G mobile network. According to this report, Washington has been considering boosting financial aid for telecoms development in countries that steer clear of Chinese-made equipment. It also said one of the government's concerns is based on the use of it in countries that host US military bases, such as Germany, Italy and Japan. Now, Huawei is one of several Chinese tech companies that have come under US government scrutiny as the two countries are locked in a bitter trade war. But the firm has repeatedly denied engaging in intelligence work for any government, and earlier this week it boasted it had signed 22 commercial contracts for 5G networks.
China has rejected accusations from Washington that it's been employing unfair trade practices. Beijing appears to be showing little sign of backing down from a high-stakes meeting between the two sides at the upcoming G20 summit. Their trade dispute, though, could see fresher faces being caught in the crossfire. Laura Freiberg reports.
The giants of the German auto sector reportedly summoned to the seat of US power. An invite that could see Volkswagen, BMW and Daimler next in the firing line of President Trump's trade war.
I suspect they're going to be told that they have to transfer production into the US. Trump knows he can't stop people buying German cars, but he wants to make sure it's creating more American jobs.
That could be the option on offer if the auto firms want to avoid tariffs on their US-destined vehicles. Trump's threatened duties on all EU-assembled cars for months. That could stall the German auto industry, whose second biggest export destination is the US.
We already see the trade conflict between the US and China causing uncertainties for German suppliers, and we do everything we can to protect the open order and make it practicable.
Not the aim so far, though, of Trump in his main trade battle with China. Washington now proposing stepping up scrutiny over technology exports in high-tech areas that would directly affect Beijing, just days before China's president and Trump talk trade at the G20 summit.
The US has made new groundless accusations against China in total disregard of the facts. It's completely unacceptable to China. We hope the US can stop words and acts that can harm economic and trade relations between the two countries.
The WTO says 40 new protectionist trade policies among G20 nations were implemented over 5 months of this year at a cost of $481 billion. It's warned further escalation will harm growth, consumer prices and jobs.
Time for a break now, but when we come back, we take a look at all the action in Taiwan ahead of local elections tomorrow.